Okay, what we've got here is an ordinary deck of cards. And what I'm going to do is cut the cards. What I like to do is give a demonstration of cutting the cards to the audience so they know what to do. You'd be amazed what they can get up to if you don't demonstrate. Then I hand it to an audience member who cuts the cards. And then a second audience member who cuts the cards. So I got 3 cuts by 2 audience members and myself. And then what I like to do is to introduce myself. See, a lot of people, they don't know who I am, and that's understandable. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Andre, that's Andre with an A. And what I'm going to do is tell the story of a frozen section surgery I attended with my pathologist. Her name was Dr. Fiona Kingston. Now, for reasons of patient confidentiality, I'm going to refer to the patient as patient Q. And that way, Mrs. Queensby's real name is protected. Now, Mrs. Queensby, she had a BCC, that's a basal cell carcinoma, to be excised from her face by a surgeon. His name was Dr. Jackson. And this isn't really the story of the surgery so much as what happened after the surgery when the 4 of us decided we weren't going back to work. You see, Dr. Jackson, he had no more patients for the day. He was done. Mrs. Queensby, she was still recovering from the anaesthetic, so she wasn't going anywhere. Dr. Kingston didn't want to go back to work, and when the pathologist doesn't want to go back to work, then the pathologist is not going back to work. And me, Andre with an A, I'm a scientist, and I do, well, whatever the pathologist says. So, instead of going back to work, the 4 of us, we ended up playing poker, of all things. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever played poker before, but you'll very quickly discover if you do, that's the sort of game where people love to show off. And you can imagine a surgeon, a scientist, and a pathologist all playing poker. The showing off got pretty intense. For instance, at one point, Mrs. Queensby had a question about probability. She wanted to know what was the probability of a poker hand, really. What are the odds of 5 cards out of 52? Now, the 3 of us, we thought about it for a while, and in the end, the 3 of us came up with the following answers. Dr. Jackson was the first to speak. He said, I think the probability is expressed mathematically as 52 factorial times 5 factorial times 47 factorial. Now, Dr. Kingston, she knew that was wrong, so she told him politely, no, arsehole, you're wrong. But, you know, in a nice way. It's actually 52 factorial over 5 factorial times 47 factorial. Now, I knew that she was correct. Dr. Kingston was correct, but I wasn't going to let her get away with that so easily. I did the mathematics in my head and I worked out the answer, and some of you have probably already worked out the same answer I have. Factorials 52, 5 and 47. The answer is that the probability of a poker hand is 1 chance in 2,598,960. When I told them that, the others, they looked at me in shock and they said, Andre, with an A, you're as sharp as a diamond. So that was our poker game. Very weird. Not just for the showing off, it was weird in other ways too. For instance, there were quite a few high-value hands in the deck. Hands that really shouldn't be there according to probability. For instance, in the final hand, there were quite a few full houses. Now, for those of you who don't play poker, a full house is 3 of a kind and 2 of a kind, a triple and a pair. And like I said, there were quite a few full houses in the deck. So in the final hand, Dr. Jackson, he had a full house. He had 3 7s and 2 6s, right? The triple and the pair. Now, a full house is a pretty good hand, so Dr. Jackson was doing well. But Dr. Jackson didn't win because Mrs. Queensby, she also had a full house. She had 3 8s, known as the 3 fat ladies, and 2 9s, known as the German Virgin, as in 9, 9, German Virgin, yeah? No? Okay, never mind. Anyway, her 3 8s outranked the 3 7s of Dr. Jackson. So, Mrs. Queensby, she had an even better full house. But Mrs. Queensby didn't win either, because Dr. Kingston had 4 of a kind, 4 10s. Now, if you know anything about poker, you'll know that 4 10s, well, 4 of anything really, is pretty much unbeatable. Dr. Kingston put her cards down on the table and said, read 'em and weep. And then she tried to sweep all the money off, and I said, hold it right there, you did not win. Dr. Kingston looked at me in shock and said, you've got to be joking. Andre, with an A. There is no way in hell you can beat 4 of a kind. And I said, yeah, there is. Because 4 of a kind in poker can always be beaten by the straight flush. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what I had. Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Andre, that's Andre with an A, and this is my poker story.